New Mutants is a new film directed by Josh Boone, the director of The Fault in Our Stars, and stars Anya Taylor-Joy, Maisie Williams, and Charlie Heaton, and follows 5 young mutants trapped in a hospital as they learn to harness their powers and try to escape. So this film was supposed to come out in April 2018. And then the Fox-Disney merger happened, a bunch of other problems with the movie happened, and the pandemic hit, and now this film finally came out in theaters. This poor movie. Honestly, a lot of people thought this would never come out, and I do see why, but it's here. It's out, and it was average. Not great, not terrible, just average. Which, for a movie with this much trouble in its production, I'll call that a win. But I don't know. They were given the right amount of time. I think this movie could have been really good, but it's just average. But let's get on with the review. The best part about this film is hands down the fact that this doesn't feel like a normal superhero film. In the world we live in, where there's comic book movies being pumped out regularly, this feels different than the normal comic book film, and for that, I believe this film is going to stand out among the others just solely because of that. There's a bunch of other issues with the film that I have, but I'm going to get into those later, but just there's a lot in this film that makes this feel average. It's got a great cast. I really liked Maisie Williams, Anya Taylor-Joy, Charlie Heaton, and Blue Hunt in this film. I thought Maisie Williams and Blue Hunt's chemistry in this film was really great. Anya Taylor-Joy was definitely a standout. I thought the cast had great chemistry together, and if honestly this was a better film, I really would have liked them a lot more. I think they, being in this film and the way it goes, I think they could have benefited from a lot better made film, but I know there's still a lot of production problems, so pushing that aside, I like some of the action sequences. I thought they were decently entertaining, minus the opening scene, which is really muddled in camera work. I liked the villains in this movie. Well, I say that. There is one reveal that I'm not going to spoil here, but it's kind of lame and kind of not stupid, but it's just more like, well, we kind of predicted that. But the Demon Bear looks cool. The Smile Man that was revealed in the recent trailer looks really creepy and is honestly one of the better parts of this movie. Their whole scene in the film was pretty creepy and entertaining. I really enjoyed it. It's probably the best part of the horror elements of this movie in a YA type superhero film. This movie really has a terrible tonal problem with that. This movie just doesn't stick to one tone. It goes from like horror to YA to a typical superhero film. It just doesn't stick to one. It doesn't play into certain elements. It just flip-flops back and forth. And I think this movie really could have benefited from just sticking with one tone, and that being the horror, because when the first couple trailers came out and it was like, oh yeah, this is going to be a mutant horror film, a lot of us were like, ooh, this should be interesting. And some of the scenes involving horror, yeah, were, but there was also a lot in here that just didn't work. The plot is standard. Some of the writing in this movie is exposition-y and not great. Josh Boone's direction is pretty decent. Some of the scenes in this film remind me a lot of Fault in Our Stars, and with good reason. There's a lot of scenes in this film that I thought worked enough to where I was like, okay, this is entertaining. As a whole in the movie, it doesn't really work, but for what was happening on screen at the time, yeah, it worked, and I liked it. I thought that Josh Boone was taking from those Fault in Our Stars roots and was like, oh, here we go. And for me, it worked. But I don't know. There's a lot I could say about this, but there's also a bunch here that relates to the production problems, because there were no reshoots for this film. That was basically confirmed that never happened, and what was shot originally is what we have on screen, just with the final product of CGI and everything else. Which, for the record, the CGI in this film at some points is actually really good. At other points, it's like, which I guess could be given, but at this point, with the CGI world that we live in for film, it's starting to get a little worse in how noticeable it is. But that's besides the point. Point is, New Mutants is average. It's not great. It's not terrible. It's just average. And for that, I'm not going to sit here and say, yeah, go out and watch it. But I thought it was decent. I'm going to give New Mutants a 5.5 out of 10. This is a reluctant 5.5 out of 10. I honestly could have given this a 6. I decided to go with that because thinking about this and the way I thought about Suicide Squad, yeah, I have issues. I was still entertained, but there's still a lot of issues I have with this film. But nevertheless, I was still entertained and thought there were some good moments out of it. So, yeah, sue me. Thank you so much for watching. Look forward to my Tenet review next weekend. I got a ton of written reviews coming on my Instagram page soon. I slacked off over the weekend because, well, reasons that happened Friday night. I think you know what I'm talking about. But I got Dark Knight Trilogy written reviews coming. I got Mulan written reviews. I want to hit the Bill and Ted films. I got Dunkirk and Interstellar I want to hit before Tenet comes out. I have a lot that I need to write out, but the next video review coming out will be Tenet next weekend. But aside from that, thank you so much for watching, and look forward to more soon.